So Ja Morant, Shams reported a couple of days ago, Ja Morant is available on the trade market. There's this awkward thing where the Grizzlies are flying, I think as we speak right now, are flying over to Europe. The Grizzlies and the Magic are playing 2 games in Europe this upcoming week, 1 game in Berlin and 1 game in London. These are showcase games for the NBA. They are planned out a year plus in advance. There's a lot of business that goes around them. There's a lot of promotion that goes around them. They're picking areas where they're trying to engage fans and engage sponsors. The NBA right now is trying to establish a new league in Europe, and Berlin and London are 2 of the places where they are looking very seriously at going. All of this stuff is very important. Ja is one of the signature players in here. And he comes over, in a situation where he is trying to be traded because his team is moving another direction. So that's less than ideal. He has missed a number of games in a row here as he's dealt with a lingering calf issue. But it's important for NBA business for him to play, McMahon. So at some point he is going to not only play, but have to do interviews because he is, again, the headliner of this thing. He can't run away from this over there.
Well, it's also important for Ja's business, especially Ja as a guy who has a signature shoe with Nike.
Correct. So, the problem is here, it's not a situation that's dissimilar to what's going on with Trae Young, is that Ja's value is not great right now. Forget about the fact that he has had these off-court issues and has faced suspensions. By the way, his most recent suspension was a team suspension this year. But his production level, as he's dealt with injuries over the last several years, has been falling off. And he is right now having arguably his worst year of his career.
Unquestionably his worst year of his career when you factor in efficiency and the fact that, again, they're 6-12 with him on the floor.
His 3-point shooting is basically the worst in the league for someone who shoots as much as he does.
His jump shooting, period.
Okay, so this is not the time to trade a player, yet here they are, McMahon. Well,
yeah, and look, people, oh my gosh, I can't believe they couldn't get more for Trae Young. If that's what you think, you haven't been paying attention. Like, Bobby and I wrote about this in early December, and it's not like it was some kind of new concept here. We lumped LaMelo Ball in, who, by the way, LaMelo has shown some flashes. The Hornets have put some wins together, but it was Ja, Trae, and LaMelo, these 3 max point guards, former All-Stars, young, in either entering their prime or what should be in their prime. The perception around the league was that all could be available. Trae obviously became very available, not just available. They were desperately trying to dump him. That's why they took back an expiring deal and, kind of a flyer on a former lottery pick who's had a middling career so far. Shams reported that the Grizzlies are looking for young players and, multiple picks for Ja. Good luck with that because, the feedback that we got on Ja wasn't any more favorable than the feedback that we got on Trae. As a matter of fact, in some cases, it was even worse. And again, he's not attacking the rim nearly like he used to be. He did recently have a 40-point game that was kind of like a reminder or even an indication of, hey, if I want to, I still can. How often does he want to? How often is he even available? He's a bad jump shooter who's shooting more jump shots than ever. And I'll just quote an East executive from then. The combination of pain in the ass, injury prone, not that good anymore, and big contract is a bad one.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, this is no different than the Trae situation. So the question, like the Trae situation is there a team? That's the question. I think if you look at the fact that this story's out there, it means that Memphis is open to do a deal. And if Memphis is open to do a deal, like Atlanta was open to do a deal, like we spent the last few weeks walking through that situation, it comes back to, is there somebody who will take Ja Morant? And I would say the answer is very much, I don't know. I think there's a couple possibilities maybe, but like we talked about with the Trae Young situation, there are very few teams that need a point guard. There are very few teams that could take on a $40 million salary, and there are even fewer teams that can do both. So I would guess that Ja Morant is traded like Trae Young was traded between now and February 5th, because once these things tend to start down the track, they tend to get to a resolution. And the fact that it's out there would seem to me to be an indication the Grizzlies, one way or the other, are ready to exit stage right from this situation. However, I will reserve the right to say there might not be an exit from the situation. And because of that, we might just be sitting here on February 6th with Ja Morant on the Grizzlies. Well, I mean, you're shaking your head, McMahon, but if nobody wants to trade for him,
I think there's teams who want to trade for him. It's just a matter of whether the offer is going to be palatable for Memphis.
Well, I mean, he's a distressed asset. So, for example, like Milwaukee's been mentioned. Like Milwaukee can't give you significant value in a trade. They don't have it.
But don't spend time talking about the framing.
But here's the deal.
It's the Trae Young situation. Exactly.
Here's the thing, though. The Grizzlies have to trade Ja. You can't have the toothpaste out of the tube and then, have to deal with the situation. He cannot be on the roster after February 6th. It will be an absolute mess. He's already had a very loud, ugly confrontation with their rookie coach. Everybody in that arena, much less locker room, knows they want to get rid of him. And the feeling is mutual. It's reached a point where Ja Morant's career cannot continue in Memphis.
I would agree with you. However, I would just reiterate, I think there was one team interested in trading for Trae Young. So there might not be a team interested in trading for Ja Morant. And if there's not, it's hard to trade him if nobody wants it.
I think there are some teams that are interested. I'm just not sure Memphis is going to want what the offer is.
Well,
they're interested because they think they can get him for it's an upside play
because they've got their own problem. They've got their own contract that they're the poo-poo platter.
Yes.
So
I mean, I would still bet that he's traded between now and February 5th somewhere. I have no idea where, but I think that there is at least a chance he won't be. Because either no one's really interested or the only things that are of interest are just for whatever reason a worse situation than telling Ja to park it till the summer and trying again then.
So let's go back in some history. What happened when the Thunder decided to trade Paul George? What happened next?
Well, one, it was not in the middle of the season.
Okay,
2,
that's fine. But what happened next?
What happened
when
next?
They decided to trade Paul George?
Yeah.
For Paul George or trade him away?
They traded Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
When the Jazz traded Rudy Gobert.
Oh, we're going back to the Desmond Bane trade? Is this what we're doing?
Desmond Bane has been traded. Now Ja Morant's available.
So are you moving it forward?
Well, right. I would say if you go back to that, if you want to look at these situations in analog, because I think they are an analog, why was DeJounte Murray traded and not Trae Young?
Because they could get value for him.
Because
DeJounte Murray had a lot more value to at least one team than Trae Young had anywhere. And that's exactly what happened with Desmond Bane. I think if the Grizzlies could have gotten that package for Ja Morant, they would still have Desmond Bane. And I'm not sure they'd be looking to trade Desmond Bane. However,
they traded Desmond Bane this summer. And what else did they do this summer of significance?
They also extended Jaren Jackson Jr.
To as much as they could give him, the second they could give him, despite the fact they knew he had to get toe surgery. So their actions are telling you that they are determined to rebuild the Grizzlies, I would say, around Jaren Jackson Jr. There is a lot of discussion around the league wondering if that is mutual, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, look, I would say all bets are off in general. The way things have gone there, I'm not so certain I would be rushing to take on Jaren Jackson Jr. and his money at this point. I'm not sure how well that contract will age over time for all the time we've talked about guys in that stratosphere of money. And yeah, like I just go back to the Trey thing over and over again. Like this is exactly like the Trey Young situation. And I suspect if a trade happens, it's either going to look something like that or it's going to be longer term money, but like that.
Yeah.
Because I just don't see where any kind of strong offer is coming in for him, because frankly, I think if there had been a strong offer somewhere, he wouldn't be on the team today.
Yeah, it's not like this reporting is the first time people around the league thought that Ja was available. Like now this is the first time that there's been kind of the admission that he's being shopped. But there's been the perception that Ja could be had in the trade market for over a year now.
It's also, again, it's the same as Trey. It's exactly the same. And how did that end? That ended with no draft picks and a couple rotation players.
If there are multiple picks involved in this, it's because the Grizzlies are taking back some really ugly long-term salaries.
Right.
Well, the other thing is the Grizzlies have a very complex pick situation this year.
Yeah.
It involves swaps with the Suns and Wizards, which involves the Bane trade. But basically...
and Magic.
Yeah,
and
hilariously,
Magic.
I think they'd end up with the Magic's pick as of now.
Right. Well, and the funny thing there is when they made... Well, funny if you're not a Memphis fan or in their front office. When they made that trade for Bane, their belief was the best asset that they got was the Suns pick this year as part of that whole swap thing.
The right to swap the pick this year. Yep.
Right. They thought, hey, that's going to be a lottery pick, maybe even a high lottery pick. And one of the primary reasons that no, it looks like it won't even be a lottery pick, much less the pick that you end up getting, is because Dylan Brooks, a guy who was very unceremoniously dumped by the Grizzlies when his contract expired and kind of started this chain of events that's led us to this point, has had a great impact in Phoenix. And the Suns now are one of the teams that maybe the team that is most exceeding expectations this year.
I seriously, I like need Bobby Marks and a whiteboard and some hallucinogenic drugs to figure out their swap situation, but they could end up.
Right now, Warriors fans, we need to talk seriously, honestly, and boldly about a name that just shook the entire NBA landscape, Ja Morant. Because whether people like it or not, the Memphis Grizzlies have reached a breaking point, and the league knows it. Insiders are saying it openly now. This situation cannot continue. Ja Morant's career in Memphis is hanging by a thread, and when a franchise reaches that stage, history tells us one thing very clearly: a trade is coming. The question isn't if, the question is where. And that's where Golden State enters the conversation. Let's be real for a second. Ja Morant's value has never been lower. Injuries, efficiency issues, missed games, off-court problems, and a massive contract have turned a former face of the league into what executives are calling a distressed asset. That sounds negative on the surface, but for smart franchises, that's where opportunity lives. The Warriors are one of the few organizations in the NBA that can actually handle a situation like this. Structure, culture, leadership, accountability – these are not buzzwords in Golden State, they are proven realities. What people are missing is this: Ja Morant is still one of the most explosive talents in basketball. Even in a down year, even while battling injuries, even with the noise around him, we've seen flashes that remind everyone exactly who he is. A guard who can get to the rim at will, a player defenses still fear in transition, a talent who, when locked in, bends the entire floor. That kind of upside does not disappear overnight. It gets suppressed by bad situations, bad health, and bad timing. And right now, Memphis is moving in another direction. They've already made it clear. This is a rebuild, This is a reset. They want young players, they want picks, they want flexibility. They do not want to be tied to a volatile, expensive situation any longer. Once that toothpaste is out of the tube, you can't put it back. Ja Morant cannot walk back into that locker room after the deadline if he isn't traded. Everyone knows it. The fans know it, the front office knows it, the league knows it. Now ask yourself this. If you are the Golden State Warriors, are you really going to waste what's left of Stephen Curry's prime by playing it safe? This franchise didn't become a dynasty by being conservative. They became a dynasty by identifying elite talent, putting it in the right ecosystem, and demanding excellence. Ja Morant would not walk into Golden State and be handed the keys. He would walk into a system led by Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Steve Kerr. That matters more than people realize. In Golden State, Ja wouldn't need to carry the offense. He wouldn't need to be Superman every night. He wouldn't force shots or play hero ball. He would attack gaps. He would pressure the rim. He would create chaos while Steph spaces the floor in ways Memphis never could. That's basketball synergy. That's how careers get revived. Yes, the risk is real. Nobody is denying that. The contract is big, the injuries are concerning, the reputation is damaged. But championships are not won without risk, and this is exactly the type of calculated gamble that great organizations explore when the window is still open. The Warriors don't need Ja to be perfect. They need him to be focused, available, and willing to buy in. If there's one place in the NBA where that transformation is possible, it's Golden State. This is not about hype. This is not about fantasy trades. This is about timing, leverage, and opportunity. Ja Morant's value has collapsed. Memphis is ready to move on, and the Warriors are one of the few teams positioned to absorb risk for upside. That combination doesn't happen often, and when it does, smart front offices at least explore it. So, Warriors fans, this is the moment to ask the real question. Would you rather stay comfortable and capped out, or would you take a swing that could redefine the rest of the Curry era? Because if Ja Morant lands in the right situation, this league will feel it immediately. Let me know what you think. Would you take the risk on Ja Morant in Golden State? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit like and subscribe to Warriors Nation News for non-stop Warriors coverage.